Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This is my dad's revenge, not mine, and this happened last summer. My parents live out on a lake just outside of town. Their property extends to both sides of the road, and their mailbox is on the opposite side of the lake and the house. Over the 4 years they had lived at the property, a black SUV has knocked down their mailbox 6 times. They catch the vehicle on the security camera on the gate but get no identifying information. My dad would report it every time, but not much could be done. It was knocked over by a drunk driver once as well, but he crashed a bit further down the road, so that was the only time that my dad got reimbursed for the damage. Well, after the 7th time it was knocked down, he had had enough. The land on the opposite side of the road dropped off steeply immediately after the shoulder. So my dad contracted some guys to build a small gravel bed 15 feet long and 3 feet deep or so he could sit his mail pack from the road. My dad told me that if someone tried to knock it down now, they would regret it. Well, about 4 months after the work was complete, my parents were awoken to a loud crash in the middle of the night. They called the police and went out to investigate. They found the black SUV off the road and that it crashed into a very large tree. The guy was taken to the hospital and was charged with a DUI from the crash as well as possession of drugs they found in the vehicle. By building out the gravel pad and moving the mailbox back by just a few feet, it still appeared that the mailbox was on the shoulder and still seemed like an easy target. In reality, those 3 feet made all the difference. Because the pad was so short, the vandal left the roadway before the pad started, and when the right side of his vehicle went off the shoulder, his car went veering down the steep incline. The dude was pretty badly injured, and I know my dad felt bad about this. I think this was much more effective than he had in his mind. My dad isn't the kind of person to intentionally injure someone, so I'm sure he was hoping to just cause damage to a vehicle and teach a lesson that way. So, my dad is an old amateur radio guy, ham operator, and when I was about 13 or 14, my family was living in a bad duplex while our new house was being built. We had decent neighbors on the other half of the duplex, but every time they went away for the weekend, often their 18 to 20-year-old son would host these huge parties and did not care about noise complaints. We would call the cops. They would come, turn it down, but the music would get turned up right away when they left. One night it was getting especially out of hand and the cops never came to deal with it. Late into the night, my dad gets up, pulls an old radio of his, of the storage closet. All his gear was packed up since he didn't have the room for it, or his 60-foot antenna tower in his little crappy duplex, and he pulls about 20 feet of unshielded wire off a roll and starts running it out the back of his radio. Along the wall, up about 5 feet, back down, across the wall some more, up again and back down. He knew where the tower speakers were located on the other side of the wall from having coffee with the neighbors. He keys up the mic, and we could hear the click come through the wall. He then shouts, "Turn that down," into the mic, and it came back through the wall louder than I could hear his voice while standing next to him. And about half of down is replaced with a loud whomp noise followed by silence. The amplifier for their stereo skipped right past any protection circuits inside it. My dad had an ear-to-ear grin before we had the douchebag son pounding on our door. My dad opened the door and this kid started throwing punches immediately. Call the cops again? Now with an assault report, and suddenly they show up in minutes. My dad didn't press charges, but the cops made the jerk apologize. And when his parents got home, they made their son pay for the stereo. That was the last party he ever had. As a crew member on the luxury cruise ship, I had seen my fair share of entitled passengers, but Karen was something else entirely. From the moment she boarded the ship, she made it clear that she expected special treatment.
Can't you see that we have a lot of luggage here? Carry it to our suite and make sure it's the best one on the ship.
Karen demanded that she and her family boarded the ship. We did as she asked, carrying her bags to the largest and most expensive suite on the ship. But when we arrived at the suite, Karen was far from satisfied.
This view is terrible. I paid for the best room on the ship, and I expect a better view than this.
Karen complained. I'm sorry, ma'am, but all of our suites have the same view. It's a beautiful ocean view, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. One of the crew members replied.
I don't want to hear your excuses. I want a new room, and I want it now.
Karen demanded. We tried our best to accommodate Karen's unreasonable request, but no matter what we did, it was never enough. She complained constantly and made the trip miserable for everyone around her. The other passengers on the ship were starting to take notice of Karen's antics, and many of them were getting fed up with her entitled behavior. But Karen didn't seem to care. She was used to getting her way, and she was determined to make this trip all about her. One day, Karen decided that she wanted to go on a shore excursion to a secluded area. The problem was the excursion was already fully booked, but Karen refused to take no for an answer. She stormed into the tour office and demanded that the crew members find a way to get her on the excursion.
I demand that you get me on that excursion. I'm a paying customer, and I expect the best of everything.
Karen yelled at the crew members. I'm sorry, ma'am, but the excursion is already fully booked. There is simply no room for you. One of the crew members replied calmly.
I won't accept that. I want to go on that excursion, and I want to go now.
Karen demanded. When the crew members explained that it was simply not possible, Karen became enraged. She screamed and yelled, causing a scene in a crowded tour office. The other passengers were getting more and more fed up with Karen's behavior, and many of them began to voice their complaints to the crew. It was at this point the captain of the ship decided that enough was enough. He called Karen into his office and tried to talk to her about her entitled behavior. Miss Karen, I understand that you are unhappy with your experience on this cruise, but your behavior is unacceptable, and it's causing problems for the other passengers in my crew. The captain said,
I don't care about the other passengers or your crew. I paid for the best, and I expect to get the best. It's your job to make sure that I'm happy.
Karen replied, but the captain was having none of it. I'm sorry, but this is how things work on this ship. We are here to provide a pleasant and enjoyable experience for all of our passengers, not just one individual. Your behavior has been disruptive and unacceptable, and I'm afraid I will have to ask you to leave the ship, the captain said firmly. Karen was shocked and outraged at the captain's words. She couldn't believe that she was being asked to leave the ship.
You can't do this to me. I paid for the best, and I expect to get the best. I demand that you let me stay on this ship.
Karen yelled at the captain, but the captain stood his ground. I'm sorry, but my decision is final. You and your family will have to gather your belongings and leave the ship, he said. In a fit of rage, Karen attempted to slap the captain, but he was too quick for her. With a smooth motion, he caught her wrist and brought her down to the deck, humbling her in a way that I had never seen before. Karen was embarrassed and ashamed as we escorted her and her family off the ship. It was a harsh lesson for her in the dangers of entitlement, and one that I don't think she will ever forget. The other passengers breathed a sigh of relief as Karen left the ship, and the rest of the cruise was much more peaceful and enjoyable for everyone. Little information heading into this. I work in the auto industry, dealership parts department to be exact. This means I have a uniform, which is slacks, shoes, and a polo shirt and jacket in the automaker's colors with their name embroidered on the left chest. At the time of this incident, I worked for an auto manufacturer whose logo is a big T in an oval, the internal name in the sombrero. This meant my polo shirt was black with red sides and a huge red T logo along with the dealer's name on it. So here we go. Back in March, I'd just gotten off my late shift at the dealer I was with, and the time was open till 7. On the way home, I stopped at Big Mart that used to use a smiley logo, where employees wear blue vests, to get some groceries for dinner along with flowers for my dad and stuff to make a cake for my mom's birthday. A lot of significant dates happen in the first 2 weeks of March for our family. When I go shopping, I usually put in my Bluetooth earbuds as I don't want to talk to people. And it helps deter those annoying cable/internet/power salesperson that roam the aisles of the store trying to sell you their crap. My headphones at the time were a pair of Adidas Adistar by Monster. They were Bluetooth with a cord between the two and a little inline controller on the right side. This is relevant later. Now I'm at the store. It's about 7:25 p.m. and I've got my earbuds in. I'm in the picking aisle looking for castor sugar. Our Mart of Walls does carry it, and I notice someone off to my right. I don't think anything of it. It's a steady evening for them. This location is always busy. I finally settle on some sugar and go to reach for it when I feel a sharp pain in my ears, followed by someone yelling at me. I turn and yell, "What the heck?" And I'm face to face with a woman maybe 40-ish, about my height 5'10", and she's dressed quite smartly. High heel boots, leggings, an expensive looking coat, shoulder-length hair, earrings that look painfully heavy, yelling at me and holding my headphones. She had grabbed the controller and yanked them out as I couldn't hear her talking to me. She starts telling me off that it's very unprofessional for me to be wearing headphones while working. How dare I talk to her like that, and that she's been trying to get my attention as she needs me to fetch her something. I snap back that I don't work here and demand my earbuds back. But she responds that I obviously do work here, from how I'm dressed and that I'm just lazy. Then looks at my headphones in her hand with a smirk and says, "You won't be needing these." Proceeds to throw them on the ground and start stomping on them. I am furious and start shouting at her what the hell makes her think that I work here, and proceed to point at the logo on my shirt and call her a moron. At this point, a crowd had started to gather at either end of the aisle to see what all the commotion is. I guess an employee had heard something and called a manager or security. Someone in a white business shirt with a company lanyard around their neck came down the aisle to pick us up and see what was happening. She immediately starts going off at him about how lazy and unprofessional his employees are and how she wants to talk to corporate. He turns to me and starts to ask why I was ignoring her and wouldn't help her. When he notices my shirt, "Oh, you don't work here, do you?" As he's staring at me, "No, I work at X dealer up the road. I'm just here to pick up a few things and this psycho attacked me." He apologizes and asks me if she hurt me, and I respond with just my ears when she yanked the earpods out and then stomped them. She starts snarling that I am lying, that I'm an idiot, and I need to be fired. He turns to her, picks my headphones up, and tells her that he does not approve of violence in his store, and that the authorities are already on their way. The police station is like 1.5 miles from the store. He asks me to check my headphones to see if they work. Shocker, they don't. When she yanked the controller, it must have damaged the wires, as the right one cuts in and out. I say as much. We've now been escorted to the front of the store by customer service, and sure enough, 2 officers are standing by the counter. They took statements from both of us, her flailing her arms about as she gave hers. One of the officers then went with the store manager to review the cameras. The entire time we were waiting with the officer, she kept mouthing off about how I'm going to get in so much trouble when she's proven right and innocent, and that she hopes that they will lead me off in cuffs. The officer with us just told her to be quiet till they were done. The manager and officer come back out after a few minutes, and the officer asks, "Would you like to press charges?" And she starts going, "Yes, please, officer. I don't want someone like this out in public." And his response, I was actually talking to him, while gesturing to me. I say yes, I would, as my ears still hurt and she broke my earbuds. She's sputtering and coughing like my little classic car on a cold morning, whining that she's a victim. They ask me if I can verify the amount the headphones cost when I bought them new, as she'll be required to reimburse me. Thank you, Big Blue Electronics Store, for online account purchases. In the end, she had to give me the $100 the earbuds had cost me, which went towards my new Klipsch McLaren Edition T5 earbuds, and they escorted her out of the store. They gave me the flowers for my father's gravesite and the cake for my mom's birthday as an apology. It didn't end there though. She called the dealer I work at because her name was embroidered on my shirt to complain about me and the trouble I caused her. But nothing happened and I wasn't fired. Ha! This tale takes place when I was assigned to JTAC unit at Osan Air Base, Korea. JTACs are Air Force personnel who embed with Army units to call in airstrikes, as the Army has a disturbing tendency to get themselves killed when calling in their own airstrikes. There is more to it than that, but anyway. We had mandatory PT, physical training, every morning at 6:45 at the base gym. Most people on Osan lived on base, and not everyone was allowed to own a car. This meant parking was very limited at most places on base, and the gym had about 20 parking spots total. But since most people walked and we showed up really early, this was never an issue. However, JTACs being JTACs, many acquired mopeds which were much easier to get a permit for. Naturally, they were all painted in group-appropriate colors that made them instantly recognizable as belonging to someone in our unit. It being Korea, we were constantly doing exercises around base defense and launching air missions while under all kinds of attack. As a JTACs didn't really have a role to play in that fight, they'll be away for the base working with the army. They were often asked to be the opposing forces. During one exercise like JTACs called out the security forces, combination of police and base defense, second lieutenant for being unprofessional, I believe the term used to describe him was raging douche. This instilled a burning hatred in him for our unit, and he wanted revenge. Now, as I said, we had PT at 6:45, and the cops had PT at 7. The JTACs usually parked all their scooters in a pair of parking spots, which meant they could fit all 8 or so of the things in a relatively tiny space. One day after PT, we came out to discover that every moped had been ticketed because only one vehicle is allowed per spot, and our friend, the cop lieutenant, was there to proudly explain the tickets. I'm sure you can quickly see where this is going. The JTACs then proceeded to occupy every single parking spot in the lot. Even people who usually walked from their dorms started to ride their moped over. That plus those with cars meant not a single spot remained. After about 3 days of this, the base commander intervened and amended the base instruction to say that multiple mopeds could be parked in a single spot. We ended up hearing through the grapevine that although the colonel was amused by the JTACs antics, he worked out at roughly the same time and suddenly found himself bereft of parking. He changed the rule to be logical, and the second lieutenant got his hand smacked by his own commander and told to leave the JTACs alone. So, I'm a 28 male and my job is to deliver milk and goods overnight as people sleep. I've been doing this job for close to a year and have always done my deliveries the same. However, recently for one night I had 3 homes that were suddenly in a bad mood and tried to give me some trouble, as people do. So firstly, I was heading to an area with 3 homes for delivery, which I just run on their driveways because why wouldn't I? Normally it's quiet, but today I had a black BMW slowly moving ahead of me, going the same way into the same street. We both parked up and I grabbed the deliveries and ran to each door. Made the first delivery, then ran across a driveway to get to the house next to it, or I would need to run around a massive bush, so I go across the drive, deliver, and run back. Remember that black BMW? Well, a woman lifted and barked at me for running over her driveway, which, okay, I get, but she shouted, late at night I should add,
Don't run across my driveway.
then stormed off. I simply said okay while continuing to deliver to the last house. Well, her driveway has a very small lawn around it, so now I run over that. She's looked at me a few times from her window, but hasn't said a word. I mean, I did comply. I didn't run on her driveway. Second one was an area with 2 homes for delivery. 3 homes with 1 and 3 needs a delivery. So I parked near house 2 so I can run to 1 and 3. However, house 2 has a tiny patch of grass that leads to 3. I've been running over this for a year, but it's so small that 1 foot is all that lands on it. But today the owner poked his head out and again at night shouted to, do not step on my lawn. Like before I said, sure, as I continued to run because if I stop to interact, then I know they will go on and on. Next time I went there he was, watching, so I did just what he said. I ran as per usual and jumped over the grass, delivered, then ran and jumped over it again, got in a van and drove off. I mean, I complied, right? Edit. This small patch of lawn is not well kept, it's dying, and covered in urine patches or dog holes. Last one of the night was a really old lady, just a single delivery but to her house. Just a single delivery but to her house, she has a stone walkway with no other way to get to the door, but for some reason was really annoyed because I shifted too many stones with my massive feet and boots. I'm a size 12 UK size wearing steel-capped construction boots because a crate of milk falling on your feet will deal some nasty damage. So instead I just jumped onto her wall, walked across it, dropped off her milk and off I went. I'm 6'4", so this tiny wall was effortless to step on. She just looked at me, said nothing but huff, and walked in with her milk. Another happy customer. Funnily enough, these are the only issues I've ever had in 1 year. I guess the world decided to change it up a bit. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.